What's the most messed up thing you've done for money? Story 1. Back in the day, I had this friend. He was about 17 or 18 at the time. This friend was big into those freeiPod.com and freeXbox.com style sites from the early 2000s, where you had to get people to sign up for free trial offers using a credit card, and if you got enough friends, you would get a free iPod or Xbox or TV or computer. He was skeptical that it would work, so he tested by finding 5 real adults he knew to give it a try, and what do you know, he actually got his free iPod. But these sites were wise, and you often couldn't sign up for the same free trials repeatedly using the same person, even with different credit cards, and only a few offers were genuinely free or risk-free. So this friend needed to find another group of people willing to complete free trial offers. About this same time, Yahoo chat rooms were still a thing, as were Yahoo chat custom rooms. Obviously, that led to some pretty vile stuff, daddies for daughters and similar, with people looking for underage girls or boys to cyber with, trade pics with, or even meet. This friend realized that most of these pervs were older, meaning they had credit cards, dumb, and horny. It wouldn't take much in the way of promising anything to get them to sign up for free trials. So this friend made a screen name, something like Lil_Cabreras_girl, and posed as a 12 to 14-year-old girl in these chats. When dozens of men would immediately message my friend, in his best impersonation of a tween girl, would chat and weed out the ones who didn't seem serious and focus on the ones who were persistent. He would chat with them for a bit, 5-10 minutes, and then ask them to do him a favor. That favor, of course, was signing up for a free trial because I really need a new iPod, hee. It worked. This friend ended up with a free iPod, free Xbox, free desktop PC, and free PC monitor. He then sold most of them for cash. Side note, one of the guys he talked with was so persistent about meeting his fake 13-year-old persona, he reported that guy, who provided his name, address, phone, pics, to the FBI, who came and took a statement from my friend because the person was a known offender. Story 2. I once was bored in my mid-20s, around 3 a.m., and I saw a gig on Craigslist. Turned out an escort needed a safe driver to get her to gigs. Not thinking too much about it, I contacted her and spent the rest of the morning driving her around. At one appointment, she came downstairs, came to my truck, handed me $20, and told me she needed more condoms. I was taken back, but decided, what the heck? So I went to the local pharmacy, which was now almost 6 a.m., and bought 2 boxes of condoms for her. Went back, handed them off, then proceeded to wait for 2 more hours. She eventually came out. I drove her back home, where she paid me $150. I felt so wrong taking the money, knowing she was getting railed for her money, then had to pay me. I took the money anyways, and she was pleased I was a pleasant young man/driver. One of the weirdest, odd occurrences for me by far. Story 3. I spent 5 years in China teaching English as a second language. In addition to the school, I worked for private students as well. One was a successful but bored plastic surgeon. 90% of his business was the same 3 surgeries, so he wanted to learn English to break up the tedium. He would call me at random times with little or no notice and ask if I wanted to come over and give him a lesson. So one night he called me to come to his office, very normal, but when I got there, the nurse was giving me booties and a hairnet and telling me to scrub my hands. Before I knew it, I was in the operating room giving him an English lesson while he performed a nose job. I poop you not. I barely made it through. The surgery channel made me lightheaded, and I was catching the live show, pretty much scarred for life now. Edit, he wasn't performing surgery on me, it was someone else's nose job. I was just an observer. It was a violation of all known procedures of sterility and cleanliness in the OR too. China is basically the Wild West. Story 4. When I was back in school, I had a good friend who was getting bullied quite badly. He was scared to stand up to the guy bullying him, as he was quite small. He paid me the sum of a Mars bar to hit his bully round the back of the head with a fire extinguisher. Cue an unconscious 12-year-old, and me getting a rather long suspension from school and interviewed by the police. I was such a D-bag back then. Edit, to clarify, we were all in the same year at school. I was just a bit of a loose cannon back then. As others have said, it wasn't the high-pitched ding sound you'd expect, more a dull thud. No lasting injuries or brain damage occurred. The guy I hit was a real nasty piece of work, but I agree I took it too far and felt genuinely guilty after. The Mars bar was pretty freaking epic. Story 5. Late one night in my 20s in Okinawa, an overweight female bartender at a dodgy karaoke bar asked to see my wiener. It was pierced at the time. I quipped that it would cost her $10. She joked back that for $10 I should be all the way unclothed. Well, the other bartenders all threw into the pot, including a really attractive one, and so did some of the customers, mostly dudes who thought it would be a funny call to my bluff. All told, I made around $120 to drink a beer in the nude while being jeered by a bunch of drunk expats. Guess I could put a semi-pro stripper on my resume. Story 6. Was at a family dinner and my uncle complained that my aunt burnt the green beans. As a joke, he said he would pay anyone $50 to eat the whole bowl. He did not expect me to take him on the offer. This was a dinner bowl meant for like 14 people. So that night, I didn't eat an actual dinner, just an obscene amount of green beans. Surprised I didn't barf, and I had interesting, weird poops for the next 2 days. Edit. You bet your butt I got the money. Story 7. Answered a Craigslist ad to kick a guy in the balls and walk on him for $160. Liked the easy gig and the money, made about $10,000 doing that afterwards, and went to Europe for 2 months. Not me, but a friend of mine accepted 300 pounds to sleep with someone. Despite being into degrading versions of sleeping with someone, hence accepting this, she really had no need for the money. She was so unaroused by the guy that they couldn't get his wiener inside her, dry like the Sahara. So she wanked him off. No one came out of that experience well. Story 8. I was a waiter at a restaurant with a prep line that had mayo on it. There was only one dish that used mayo that no one ordered. So this mayo would sit out all day and get this foul yellow skin. I bet a buddy $100 to eat the skin right before the shift started. I spooned off the whole bucket myself, and it was a heaping scoop. He powered through it, but not long after, he was absolutely green. We are still friends. Story 9. Barely made rent and hadn't eaten in 3 days. Was a rough post-breakup year for me. Found an ad on Craigslist for some guy that was willing to pay someone to lock him in a cage and pee on him. $50 later, I had enough cheap noodles and sriracha to not go hungry for a while. Story 10. I was once paid $1 per second to lay face down in the snow, naked. I made $300 before my friends ran out of cash. Same group of fellows offered to pay me $500 to pepper spray me. I told them to make it $600 and don't tell me it's coming. Man, I made $900 from them idiots. Story 11. My friend offered me €20 to have a staring competition with a hooker in Amsterdam. I went right up to the glass and stared at her for around 30 seconds before she opened the door and threw boiling water over me. She lost and I got the money. Story 12. Someone left an envelope full of money in a booth of one of the tables at a restaurant I worked at. I didn't even think twice about it at the time, just pocketed it for the rent. Bothers me to this day that I didn't make an effort to return it to its rightful owner. Story 13. A friend of mine who is now a Marine wanted to punch me in the face as hard as he could. So of course I said no, but then we agreed on the stomach for $30. It stung like a bee, but not enough to stop him from doing it again for another $10. Story 14. I'm a 25-year-old male, had a 60-ish guy pay me $150 cash to help him cook dinner and watch a hockey game together, except naked the whole time. I have never been more scared for my dong than when making chicken parm naked. Story 15. Steal scandalous magazines from the corner store by my house and then sell them to teenage boys at my middle school. This was around 1998 to 1999, before everyone had smartphones and high-speed internet. Story 16. Elementary school, lick the janitor's mop for $2.35. Thanks for the silver. And no, it's not a euphemism. I did it because that's how much 2 slices of pizza cost in the cafetorium. Story 17. Opened a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, saw they sucked, shoddily put the bag back together, and sold it to my buddy at cost, claiming it ripped in my pocket. Sorry, Greg. Story 18. I used to give myself paper cuts for money in high school. Earlobe, eyelid, top or bottom, finger webbing, etc. People paid way too much for that. Story 19. Once I sold my own blood to a local blood bank to buy gas to drive 2 hours to see my ex-girlfriend and win her back. who then canceled. Story 20. I sold a picture of my girlfriend's feet for $130 to one of her ex-coworkers. I asked her first, of course, but it still felt questionable. Story 21. I went to gym class in my underwear. I almost made it through without getting caught by the teacher. Edit. I made $30. Story 22. I sold a bag of my feces online, frozen and vacuum sealed it, and sent it in a flat package, making $14 off it. Story 23. I beat up a guy to get $1,000 for a girl I knew. She gave me $200 of it. Story 24. Whipped out my boobaloo and electrocuted my nipple on an electric fence for $50. Story 25. Waking up way too early in the morning to go to a place I hate. Story 26. Sold Bitcoin at $1,000 each. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.